So here's the Android application for UnitsPro. What I'm using is a Android emulator of a Samsung tablet. I have it in landscape mode. When we develop our Android apps, we try to develop them for a phone application using them in the portrait. Sometimes we have some real estate issues that way, and you'll have to turn it to a landscape to be able to see all of the data. If you have a tablet, obviously it's got to be tethered to the internet through a phone or some other connection process. So here I've got my crew foreman, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. And when it comes in, I have a list of elements I can go to based on my role. So the only thing that this fella has is jobs, which is for job time entry and completion. Obviously, can log out, see spec books if they've been loaded, other reference documents that Willbros wants to make available to this fellow, safety manuals, any kind of checklists that they need to have available to them. Put them right here and then grab them and run with them. So we're going to go into My Jobs. Here there's actually 3 tabs. There's an active jobs. These are jobs that this foreman is assigned to and the job is active. There's a pending start. So this foreman's already been assigned to these 3 jobs. They're in a pending start condition. You could click on them and start them. There's a 3rd tab that's on hold. Because there are no jobs on hold, the tab doesn't show, take up the real estate. But if a job is to be put on hold for some reason, don't want that to clutter up your foreman's dashboard, so we just move it to another tab and kind of get it out of the way. And if the foreman goes in and clicks on it to do time entry, it'll automatically bring it back into an active status. But here, the job that we're looking for is neither in the active nor the pending start because it's never been assigned to this fellow. So when we assign it, we say, hey, go take a look at the jobs that are not assigned to you. There it is. And we can go ahead and select that. And by doing so, we just brought it into the pending start. Here it is. Click on that. And say, hey, when do you want to start it? UnitsPro reverts the start date back to the beginning of the current payroll week. You can modify that if you want. But we're going to leave it alone. And what it just did now is it created what we call a job day crew for each day of that week. That crew can go in and enter their time. There's reports available at the job crew level. There's reports available at the job level here. Lots of information. But let's just go through the time entry and we can get into more detail in further demonstrations. So we're going to do today, the 28th. And it brings in my crew. This is what my crew looked like yesterday. If I made any changes to the crew, when I come in today, it would be updated so I don't have to make those changes. And when I do make a change, it's going to ask me if I want to make that change on a permanent basis or not. We're not going to make any changes here, but I could inactivate this fellow for the day. He's off to training. And we can make that permanent if we wanted to. We can also add crew members here. We can add equipment. We can add rentals if we desire to track your rentals with the system. But the name of the game here is to come in and get your resources laid out right. Many of our customers are required by their utility owners to submit a daily roster. So if this process is completed in the mornings, it will generate a daily roster that can then be distributed to the owner. So we're going to leave this as is. We're going to validate our equipment. Again, we could inactivate it, we could add equipment, but we're good with this. At this point, if we hit the check mark, this is going to close. So if we're doing this in the morning, we validated our information and off we go to work. We come back in later and go into our what we call end of day. We're going to go straight into the end of day. And this is going to go ahead and open up those job details. So here's the job. Here's each of the locations. And you can see the percent complete of the job and the locations. So we're going to go into this first location. And we're going to go ahead and mark what we've done today. There are tools available to help make this go faster. With Encore, one of the problems that I personally have is that so many of these CUs are not billable. If we go through this process, someone's got to go through and complete these. So we've got some utilities that we can turn on, that when the job starts, it automatically goes through and all the non-billable units, completes them, moves them out of the way of the foreman so he doesn't have to deal with this stuff. On this first location, we're going to go ahead and add a change order element. And I'm going to make this a quantity 8. And I'll show you why I'm going to do that in a second. I'm going to go search for my units. And if you know what the unit is, you can put it in the search field. If you don't, you can use a filtering that will help you go down through and we can find this information by the section within the spec document. I think I know this one. So I'm going to go back here and just put it in. I think I want an EQ 9150R. And you can see you need to put in at least 3 characters or a couple of characters in a wildcard. And this will bring this up. And there it is. That's my overhead 3, 4, 5-person crew straight time. And the reason I want that is my inspector told me to wait for them before I start. And doggone it, he was late by 2 hours, and I want to get paid for that. Wait per FLS direction. And now I can add that, or I can add and complete it. And we're going to add and complete it. So it's adding right now. Not only is it adding and completing, but it's generating a change order that will go to the Field Inspector's mobile app, which we'll show you in a subsequent presentation here. So once I've completed all my desired units, I can continue on in the workflow. And this takes us to what we refer to as generic time entry or crew time entry. It comes in and it says, what task are you working on? We're working on the units task because this is a units contract. Set your hours. The crew worked predominantly a 10-hour crew. There may be some one-offs. We'll deal with that in a minute. These are our start times. Sometimes with Encore, depending on what you're doing, you actually have to break your day up, and this process allows you to do that. So you can work for 5 hours, have a meal, work for another 5 hours, and have all that recorded and documented to meet their needs if you ended up having to do a T&E invoice on this. So we go ahead and go next. Any comments we want to put in here about those 10 hours we can, and we're not going to. We're going to add that. So we now see that we've got 10 hours of straight time for that day. We can modify these, but we're good with them right now, and we're just going to go next. So what we've just done is we took those 10 hours and we parsed them to all the crew members that we set up earlier in the morning. It added their per diem based on their employee records, who gets per diem and who doesn't. And again, we could go in here and modify these individuals. We can inactivate a person at this point. We can add people that came onto the crew during the day. When we go next, here's our equipment. Validate our equipment. Again, inactivate, change its time, add additional equipment. We're done. It takes us into a summary screen, so you can see that this foreman has 10 hours for the day, and you can see on a previous day he had 9.5 of straight and a half hour of overtime. So we can't see that right here, but we could go run our reports and see what's going on and where that other time came from if we're really that interested in it. Once we're satisfied with this, we go ahead and submit it. and it's submitted, and now it's available for review or approval. For UnitsPro, you can configure it. Do you want to have a review layer, which would go to your next hierarchical level, supervisory level, general foreman, to review it, in which they can approve, modify, or reject the time, and then it goes to a project manager, or do you want to go in straight to the project manager? The project manager can come into the app and administer this, or they can go into the main application, which is what we're going to do here in a minute. I want to show you, if I go to another customer where I've laid out a lot more data, I'm going to log in as a test work group here. And I just want to look at the specification documents. So this is all RUS specifications for test owner number 2. If we're working on the 24/9 system, and we know it's a C-type unit, this unit here, we can go ahead and quickly bring up that information. So in the mobile app, we put an awful lot of effort into making sure that the end user can get their hands on any type of data that you want to make available. Safety manual, HR manuals, various forms, whatever they should be able to have without having to have them under the seat in the truck.